Hi, Deena. It is so good to have you here. Thank you for taking your time to come talk about your advocacy and your journey.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me here. I'm very excited to be here to share my story. My journey started when I was 3 years old. I had a really bad stomach ache that would result in just hours of vomiting, which then my parents would rush me into the ER. At that time, there was like no family history of any symptoms that I was experiencing. In parallel, my brother, who was only 2 years older than me, so roughly around 5, would get these episodes of light sensitivity, severe head pain, and then vomiting. So there would be two kids getting rushed into the ER at the exact same time. And we were gaslighted a lot growing up. We were told that we're seeking attention. Every medical test came back negative. And eventually doctors started thinking maybe it's epilepsy because both kids would puke a lot. We were tested for epilepsy and were diagnosed with silent seizures and were put on anti-seizure medication and life went on. Around the age of 15, head pain came into the picture for me and my brother slowly just stopped having the symptoms he had as a child. I was reevaluated and diagnosed with episodic migraine, which is just a migraine that comes here every once in a while. It's not considered chronic. Chronic is more than 15 episodes a month. By the age of 20, my migraine turned around. I went from completely functional to 100% debilitated. And that was the beginning of my chronic illness journey. At the exact same time, my mom collapses, becomes paralyzed in the side of her face, and gets rushed to the hospital. And 4 years later is diagnosed with hemiplegic migraine, a migraine that mimics a stroke. So up to this point, like there was just no family history of anyone having migraine. And then my mom becomes debilitated. I become debilitated all while my brother just kind of I consider like outgrew the disease. He just doesn't have migraine anymore. So from there it just was like an uphill battle for both for my mom because I became a caregiver and then also a patient with migraine. And the first 4 years of my 20s was just a uphill battle, traveling to three different states for second opinions, being gaslighted, being told there's nothing else we could do for you. You're too symptomatic to medications for us to be even willing to try something else. So it was just a journey. I'm gonna pause there. That was a lot shared.
So, is there like a theory as to, do you guys have a theory? Do doctors have a theory as to why all of a sudden your mom then became debilitated around the same time migraines just popped up?
So when we were evaluated, I grew up in California. My brother and I were evaluated by Stanford Children's Hospital, and at the time we thought we had epilepsy. They were very confident because for kids that, or just in general, anyone that has migraine, you will have an abnormal EEG. It's just one of those things. But back in the 90s, migraine wasn't really researched in children
Mhm.
as much as it is today. So there's just that huge education gap. But one of the doctors we saw told my mom, and I remember it was the first appointment we ever had with this doctor. He said, this is a genetic disorder. You or your husband will end up with this disease, probably in your 50s. Your son will most likely outgrow it, and your daughter will get worse. My brother
Wow.
outgrew it by the time he turned 15. My mom turns 50. And like 2 weeks later, she's in the hospital. And, and I turned 15. And then I started experiencing head pain. And as I continued to get older, it just got more and more debilitating. Now, like what we know about migraine, hormones for women play a big factor. So it kind of correlates my journey with like how your body changes over time with hormones. And the same thing for my mom going through like menopause. That might have been just the trigger. But looking back, my mom was never educated on migraine because no one told my mom, your kids have migraine. It was always epilepsy. So my mom did all this research on epilepsy. So when she got diagnosed with migraine, like we just got a different picture of the disease, meaning that migraine looks very different for everyone. My mom has stroke-like symptoms. I have head pain, very asymptomatic, like very atypical migraine symptoms of like nausea, light sensitivity. But my mom has paralysis on the side of her face, can't walk. So then we started doing research, and then it like clicked for my mom. That's like, oh, like I've always had head pain like throughout my life, but like it wasn't that bad. I could just take a Tylenol and it would be okay. And then my mom's an immigrant to this country, and my grandmother spoke very broken English. And my mom remembered growing up that her mom would say like she needed a dark room and that her head hurts, just like give her some quiet time. So it is genetic. Like it clicked for my mom and me that, oh, my grandmother also had migraine. It's just like we weren't educated on migraine. I had it since I was 3, but no one ever took the time to explain what the disease looks like and how it's so different for everyone.
Of course, it's the women. I mean, I guess the hormones play a part and everything, but like,
And in my mid 20s, my menstrual cycle changed really drastically to where I started having severe pain to the point where I was like the pain was worse than a migraine. So I saw a few OBGYNs and I was diagnosed with adenomyosis, and that's just scar tissue on the outside of your uterus.
mhm.
So once our like the doctor's theory was let's stop your menstrual cycles to hopefully stop your pain and the disease getting worse. By doing so, within 3 months, my migraine intensity decreased. But
What
up to that point, like I had no idea I was having menstrual migraine.
what did they do to stop the menstrual cycle?
They put me on a continuous birth control,
Okay.
which meant that like I would just take the pill every day, so it would stop the cycles. It took around like 3 different pills to find the right one. But once we did that, like when you're told that you have migraine, you're going to hear over and over, you need to find your triggers, identify it. It is impossible to do if you're
Yeah.
at a pain level of 7 every day and
Yeah.
you go to 9. It's like, what caused me to jump up by 2? Because I was already bad. So it's like, once I was able to eliminate like the menstrual component, then I was able to identify like certain triggers that make my migraine worse. But for 5 years, I had no idea. I just lived at a chronic pain of a 7 and dealt with it because there was just nothing else for me to do. So it's a unique situation that like I had other conditions that slowly started to kind of unfold as I continue to get older. I also had 2 major surgeries on my sinus, and I think that also contribute a lot to my migraine in my early 20s because I had complete blockage in both sides of my sinus, and it was creating constant infections. I went to 5 doctors before one would even take me serious because they look at my chart and they see migraine and they said, "Oh, you're just having a migraine." It was like this major red X that no one wanted to touch me because I was a liability risk. So once I got the surgery, the first surgery, I went like 1 month without ever having a migraine and was like, whoa, like this is
Life changing.
insane. Like, what?
This is what it feels like.
And eventually came back. But it's just sad that it took me 12 months of bouncing from one doctor to the next. And then when I did need the surgery, my insurance wouldn't approve it because I had other doctors submit that there was nothing wrong with my sinus. So luckily, I had like a really great doctor that would call my insurance over and over again, redid all the scans and tests, but it took 12 months of like fighting my insurance to get the surgery because I had other providers say there was nothing wrong with me.
Yeah, I feel like in my experience too, fighting the insurance, especially when it came to migraine, was like the worst of it all.
And then there's like, I live in a state that doesn't require the step back, meaning like your insurance could tell you to do medications before they will cover a certain one.
Mhm.
So luckily, like I've never had to do, when I did turn chronic, I already lived in Washington State, so I didn't have to go through that process. But I still had a fight with prior authorizations and then denials and just to get a medication. And all the new migraine medication are over $1,000.
Yeah.
There's one that's just 10 pills and it's over $1,000. And it's like, that's expensive. Like for some people, that's majority of their paycheck for a month and they need this medication. But we have a medical system that makes it like jumping through hoops to be able to get something covered.
Jumping through hoops for sure. I think that's one of the most frustrating parts. When it came to migraines for me, my doctors knew like, okay, Botox was going to help your migraines. Like we just know that. However, insurance is going to make you go through X, Y, and Z, literally the whole alphabet before we'll get to cover Botox. So it was like a year, maybe almost 2 years of starting my journey with other medications to have them fail, just so we know that like Botox works, but I couldn't get it until I had so many failures. And that is, I mean, that's just classic example of jumping through hoops and how broken the medical system is, especially insurance. So I feel you on that. And I think that that's a very common experience for a lot of people, unfortunately.
Yeah. I always say having a chronic illness is a full-time job. If it isn't
Yeah.
the insurance, it's fighting to get to just to get in to see your doctor because there's just such a big shortage of medical professionals. And I also think it's very hard to find a good medical professional that is empathetic and also is willing to help you. So like when
Validates
you do
you.
find yeah, like when you do find that doctor, it's like I have a problem, but oh, well, they can't see you for 2 more months. It's like, okay, like can we do this over my chart or something? Like I need help now. So it is just a full-time job. And anytime I have to call insurance, I know I'm just going to be in a terrible mood for like the
Yep.
next the rest of the day. I'm just going to be absolutely livid that I had a new insurance with a new company I went to, and I don't know what was wrong, but every time my doctors say they sent something in, I'll call them and they would say they never got it. And it was just like this back and forth that I felt like they were just lying to me at that point. It's like, it's been 6 months and you're still saying you're not getting this paperwork when I have the copies that my provider is sending to you.
And it's like literally debilitating head pain. Like this adds more head pain, honestly. It's just a pain in our ass to have to deal with all this. Going back to like medical gaslighting and like you having to go through so many doctors to take you seriously, what's like one thing that really stands out to you when it came to the medical gaslighting?
I was 3 when I first got admitted to an ER. And as a child, you when you go through trauma, you tend to block out things that are traumatizing to you. So when I went in with my mom into the hospital, it was like all these memories just flooded my brain that I just did not remember ever like conversations happening of you're just seeking attention, definitely when you're a child and like every test is coming back negative. And I was complaining like I have stomach pain, not head pain. So the first I come to doctor's mind, it's anxiety, trying to get out of school, avoiding something, bad home life. It's like all those memories of going into the ER to advocate for my mom just came back. And the worst part is my mom was so gaslighted. I got in a fight with an ER doctor. He said, there's nothing wrong with your mom. She's having stroke-like symptoms, but it's not a stroke, so we're just releasing her.
Ah,
And I just snapped because this was the second time we rushed my mom into the ER. And I just like, we're not releasing her. She can't speak. Like, she can't even get one word out. There's something wrong. And then the next 4 years was a fight because everyone kept saying it's a stroke, but it's not a stroke until we found a provider that said, no, this is just hipiplegic migraine. So there was about a 12-year gap. And yet the gaslighting was exactly the same in the ER. It's like nothing has changed.
and
And that's really sad.
it's so sad. And I'm getting so emotional for this because it's like I like empathize with that so much. And like the fact that you were what, 15, you were young and you had to advocate not only for yourself, but for your mom too, for all these doctors that aren't taking anything seriously. That's a hard teenage emotional thing to deal with.
It was. And then like I was admitted into the hospital when I think I was 23. I flew to Chicago. I was seeing a really bad specialist in Seattle that gaslighted me a lot and told me I was advocating that like I'm not doing well. Like I need I want to see a new doctor. Could you refer me out? And his response was, I don't think you're chronic enough for me to give you a referral to see someone else. I called my old doctor for advice that I trusted a lot. He's like, go to Chicago. There's a headache specialist, like a headache hospitalization center there. Take a bag. They may admit you, they may not admit you. At that point, I was 9 months of zero relief at a 7 or higher pain every day. So I was admitted into the hospital. And that was the first time that at that point I had migraine for 20 years that I ever felt heard and understood. Like the doctor was so thorough, going through all my medical history. And I was experiencing a lot of symptoms that doctors said that it is migraine symptoms, but he was the first doctor that says, I think it's actually your medication that's causing some of your symptoms. Like, we're going to take you off these medications, but we're going to admit you in, and we're going to do it very slowly. And I was on that medication since I was 5, by the way, and I was 23 at that point.
Wow.
So, like, I was very like, no, don't you dare take me off this medication. Anytime I've tried getting off of it, I can't see, I get really sick. And he's like, it's symptoms of what you're experiencing. And sure enough, he was right. Like, it was the first time I was ever educated that there is a difference between a neurologist and a headache specialist.
Mm.
A neurologist could be a headache specialist, but a headache specialist goes through extra training and goes through certification to really treat headache disorders. I was also educated at that point that there are food triggers, weather patterns that could affect your migraine. Like, no one ever took the time to ever educate me, even though I've had the disease for such a long time, that hey, you should maybe keep a journal or be more mindful of these certain types of foods that could potentially be a trigger, may not be a trigger for you, but could make you sick. I was also taught on like how to use my acute treatment more effectively. So it's just like it's really sad that it took me going out of state into a hospitalization center just for migraine and to learn about my migraine disease.
So, do we feel like it's just lack of information around, or like there's just not enough specialists that are in the headache world? Like, why? Because same.
There's two reasons. One, in med school, it's only about 4 hour coursework on migraine. So that's issue number one. And most people will go to their primary care doctor first and say, like, I'm experiencing a lot of head pain or nausea. So if your primary care isn't educated on like some red flags of, oh, this may be migraine, you're never going to receive the right treatment. So that prolongs getting the correct treatment. The second piece, there's only roughly between 700 and 800 headache specialists in the United States. And there's a lot of people with migraine. So most people go to neurologists or get treated through their primary care. But even neurologists don't have a full textbook on how to treat migraine. So there's just a lack of education in the schooling piece that leads to poor care.
The ratio doesn't add up.
Correct. That's exactly it.
What are some of your triggers?
So I wasn't able to identify triggers until we treated my hormone issues. And once we did that, like that was a huge trigger. I got off my birth control just because I kept having breakthrough periods and we wanted to try a new medication. I was debilitated. Like I was trying to do 2 months without it. I said, give it, like I took it within 4 weeks after. And like just 2 days on the pill, like my migraine just simmered down, which is just insane to me. It's like
Crazy.
it I don't know what's ever gonna happen. Like if it's gonna continue to get worse as I get older or if it's eventually going to get better. But I know my menstrual cycle is a huge trigger. The other thing is MSG, but only small volumes. If I could have like a bag of Cheetos, but if I go to Chick-fil-A, I die for like a week. Chick-fil-A loads it with
Not the waffle
MSG.
fries.
And I had no idea that they use MSG until I was on Instagram and a reel came up and someone talks about it. And at that point, like I ate Chick-fil-A. 30 minutes later, I was driving home and I was like, oh no, like I need to pull over. I
Oh,
get to my house and like I can't even walk out of my car. So my husband comes gets me. And then like days later, I'm on Instagram and someone's like, do you know Chick-fil-A has so much MSG? I'm like, oh,
that'll
like
do it.
that explains it. Like it was 30 minutes after I ate it. And that's how I know if like I have a food trigger. It's within a 30-minute ratio of when I eat it. Um, and then the weather is the other thing that really triggers my head. But ever since I did my sinus surgery I did two different parts of surgeries. The weather doesn't impact me as much as it used to be. It used to feel as like if my head was going to burst into a billion pieces. Now it's just a typical migraine. I don't have like that bursting feeling of my cheeks are going to explode, my head's going to burst. So like those are just my three things. And then like sticking to a routine. If I don't get 8 hours of sleep, I'm gonna not be functional. Like I'm someone that needs at minimum 8 hours, ideally like 9 hours. But I'm not someone that could like do an all-nighter. If I get out of a routine one day, I know the next day I'm probably going to have to be taking a nap by noon because I'm not going to make it through the full day.
So you're allergic to homophobic chicken, you can predict the weather, and you need a lot of sleep, basically.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. For somebody that has never experienced like a lot of head pain, a lot of headaches, migraines, how would you explain that to someone?
I always start off saying like it's different for everyone. So like for me, what happens, imagine you're kind of in the Alice Wonderland. Like you're there, but everything's like moving past you, kind of slow pace or fast pace. And it feels like someone grabbed a hammer and just started hitting you on the side of the head. Words become like if you're really drunk and you're having a hard time putting words together, that's what it feels like. Or it's just like difficulty comprehending. And then there's just a level of fatigue as if you did an all-nighter and you had a whole bunch of fun, but like you're just drained the next day to where you need sleep. That's what it feels like, a walking zombie of like, I'm here, but I'm not really here. But it does look different for everyone. Everyone's symptoms are very different. Just for me, it just feels like a hammer hitting my head, and that I see the world moving by, but I'm just not present. I'm not there.
You said that beautifully. And for me, it's like there's a big inflated balloon in my head and there's like zaps and yeah, everything is different for everyone. But I think the hammer to the head seals the deal.
It also used to feel like I used to use the balloon analogy as well.
Hmm.
And it felt like someone kept pumping up the balloon, and it's like at that very thin spot before it just burst. That's how it would feel in my cheeks, really bad in my cheeks, to the point like it was more painful in my cheeks than my head. But it was like my whole body, my whole like face and head felt that way of like it's going to burst. I just don't know when it's going to burst.
Racing against the clock here.
Yeah.
Do you have TMJ symptoms?
No, I do not.
Okay. I mean, that's nice, at least. So you don't have migraines coming from the TMJ.
No, I do experience neck pain. Um, it used to be like severe neck pain back. If I'm having a really bad attack, my neck pain just spikes. When I was in that chronic state of a 7, I'm now like today at a 4, and I'm using a pain scale of 10. I don't have neck pain, but if I go to a 7, I will end up with neck pain. And that just makes the migraine worse. But I know the neck pain, I think it's like when I sleep at night because I'm in pain, I'm like hunching my shoulders or
Yeah.
something. And I think that's what causes the neck pain because I wake up with it. But I also like used to tell the doctors, like, I'm sleeping, but I'm not sleeping. Like, I don't know how to describe it, but it's like I slept 10 hours. I feel like I slept for 30
Mhm.
seconds and I have no energy and my body is in so much pain that like I don't want to move. So it's just migraine is a weird disease that like it just comes with so many things that could also like the hardest part is like migraine symptoms are the same symptoms of medications. So it's like, I
Which one
don't
is
know
it?
what's what. And that's why I got so mad at my doctor when he told me, "Oh, we're taking you off this. I think your blurred vision is coming from your medication." I was like, I've been on that for almost 20 years and you want to take me off this? Like, I don't know how I feel about that. But he was right. Like, I didn't have blurred vision, which is a symptom of migraine. I just had side effects from a medication.
I could imagine there was probably a lot of anxiety when it came to coming off a medication, especially since you have history of like withdrawal symptoms with other medications.
Yeah, I have a lot of anxiety around medication. So like if we get back to like the journey of like when I started to get better, then a new medication just came out and I have tried every new medication for migraine that has hit the market, and I will always try new
Mhm.
medications, but I break out in hives or I end up vomiting from medications, or I just get some weird side effects that aren't even listed on the side effects list. So, like from 22 to like 25, I went through 40 medications. And I tried the newest one, and I'm telling my doctor, I'm like, I'm experiencing vertigo. Like, I have never had vertigo in my entire life. I'm either getting vestibular migraine or it's a side effect from this medication. He's like, you just need to try it for 3 months. Just like, give it a chance. And at that point in time, I just felt like my body was telling me, can't take anymore. Like, it just was a very clear sign that I'm out of gas with this disease, and it's like it's affecting my body in
Mhm.
so many different ways that I just stopped medication. I actually stopped all my preventative treatment, and I actually started to get better, ironically.
That's
And
so wild.
like at the same time, I just had my second surgery on my sinus. I was around 6 months on birth control, so my hormones were completely like became flatline. I think just the continue those two things combined just helped me get back to some level of being functional. And my symptoms that I would have, like I was always nauseous, and I was like, it's a migraine symptom, so it can't be medication. I would get these dizzy spells, and I would be more fatigued than I am today. I'm a naturally high fatigue person, but I was like mentally just drained every day. And as I became like started withdrawing off medications, I just became better. And that's actually how my pain went from a 7 to a 4, is that I got off my medications. So now, whenever the doctor's like, oh, let's try something new, I'm like,
Terrified.
um, terrified. And like, I could probably achieve a pain level of 0. There's a certain medication that works very well. It's only for acute though. And my insurance is willing to give me 15 instead of 10. And like my doctor's idea was like take it every other day. But it triggers other illnesses. I also have irritable bowel syndrome, so or IBS. So like taking that triggers another disease. And then I'm sick with the other disease. So I'm like, I am content at where I'm at, that I am functional out of 4. And yes, there's probably like 4 or 5 days that I hit a high note, and it may just linger for multiple days, but I'm not as bad as I was. And I just don't think I'm reactive. I'm very reactive to medications, and reactive in the bad way of I just don't do well with them. And it's that way even with antibiotics. Whenever I need antibiotics, the doctors will say, oh my God, like you're allergic to everything. And like, I know. So like there's only 2 antibiotics I could take without giving me hives. So like I have anxiety even around antibiotics because my body just doesn't react well.
So you're managing your migraines currently without any medication or treatment.
Yeah, I do feel though my birth control should be considered a preventative treatment because I know the moment I get off of it, I'm in a really bad space. And I'm probably taking acute medications 2 to 3 times a week, which is probably more
What are
than I
your
should be.
what are your acute medications if you
I
don't
have,
mind saying that?
yeah, I have one. painkiller that I take. It is Catafam is the generic name of it. And then I take Ubrelvy
Hmm.
only if I'm just like in a really bad space. Ubrelvy will cause an IBS attack for me. So like I have to weigh my odds of like which which illness do I want to flare up? Because Ubrelvy could get me to a pain level of 0. And it's very effective for me, but it does not settle well with my gut.
Have you tried Nurtec?
Yes, I've tried all the CGRP medications and they were either not effective or they were effective and then just stopped being effective for
Hmm.
me. Yeah, I tried the nasal sprays as well, and
All the
the nasal,
triptans, all the whole
yeah,
list.
yes, I've tried them all. Like triptans were really never effective for me.
Me either.
So like I think I've only tried like 2 or 3 of them, and I don't know how many there are. I think there's 5, but I kind of just said, let's like move past that. I used to do a lot of injections. There's a drug called DHE. I don't know how to say the
Hmm.
medical term, but when I was at a pain level of 7 or higher, like I would take that probably twice a week through an injection. Um, but also, I used to do a lot of Benadryl injections because that would help me as well.
Oh.
But now that I'm like at a more stable rate, like I've been able to get off kind of what I consider like the harder duty medications that it did affect my body quite heavily, those types of meds and doing injections. So I try to manage really heavily through lifestyle changes. That's been very effective for me.
What kind of lifestyle changes have you done?
So when I got to a really bad spot, I just started my career. I was working in office, and then the pandemic hit. And like the pandemic was kind of that saving grace for me because I started working from home. And then I was like, oh wow, like this is back before I was still on all these preventatives and still really struggling. But I noticed that I got better by working through home.
Mhm.
So my company I was at forced everyone to go back right away. So then I switched companies. And then I just kind of continued to do that anytime I'm forced back into an office. And I tried to make it work because I was like, oh, maybe I should try. Like, I'm at a better state now to see how it works. And it's like instantly, like, not being able to control my environment is just a really big trigger for me.
Mhm.
And I have intractable migraine, so that's when you get a migraine and it lasts more than 72 hours and it's usually resistant to medication. So like I have to not get to that spot of a really bad attack because it doesn't stop for me within a couple hours. It lingers for days. The other things are like I've done the surgeries on my nose and my sinus has been super helpful. And then just having a routine. I am a very routine person that I have to go to bed at the same time and wake up at the same time. Even if I go to bed later, I will still wake up at the same time because that's what works well for me.
The biological clock.
Yeah,
So, I mean, Botox isn't a lifestyle change. I mean, maybe for some people it is, but you never tried Botox.
I did.
Oh, you did.
Um, yes, I tried Botox. I've tried like almost
Yeah.
every common treatment, and Botox is what ended me into the hospital for 14 days.
Wow.
Um, it just the first round, I felt like it was pretty effective. Like
Okay.
I felt better. Second round, I started telling my doctors like I'm getting this neck pain, like I can't move my neck and I just don't feel good. And when I went in for my third round, I was probably at a pain level of 8 and I was like my medications I'm taking daily is not working. I don't think Botox is helping me. He gaslighted me and said we're going to do Botox again, took me off of medication. I had severe side effects, so within 48 hours, he put me back onto the old medication I was on. So my body just went through like an insane withdrawal, and then I just scared it off, basically. Ended up in the hospital for 14 days to try to break my migraine cycle because it was just at that point it was so severe. I couldn't even stand. My legs turned completely jello. The room was spinning. I would start hallucinating because the pain was so severe. And after that, I was like, I'm not doing Botox again. Like it just
Yeah.
basically stopped me from like having any movement in my neck. I didn't really feel any like pain in my face. It was just like my neck just turned completely stiff. And that is a symptom
Mhm.
of Botox. And in my medical chart, I said this in every appointment. He never wrote down that I had neck stiffness when he asked me. And I was like, I was
Interesting.
there. So, and like I took my husband too, and he's like, after the third time, he's like, I think you need to go find a new doctor. Like this guy does not seem to like have your interest in his best
Mhm.
interest here.
How do you manage your like lifestyle now? Like when you are in a flare, what do you do to kind of calm that?
From home, so I have a lot of flexibility during my day, and I usually work in the dark. And I have a bed right next to my desk. So if I need to just stumble my way through, I do that. Uh, I've also just become more self-aware of like something's off. Like there's a mind shift that needs to happen of like there's this fear that, oh my God, I only have 5 pills left for the month. I don't want to take them. So then you delay taking them and then you get really sick. And
Yep.
then it's too late because you missed that target. So I got over that. Like I will take them when I need them and when I feel off. And the other thing is like my husband's probably significantly better at identifying something's wrong with you than I am. And I don't know if it's like something happens to my face. I always, as a kid, I always would be told, why do you have such black circles under your eyes? I remember going to the grocery store and someone pulling my mom aside and saying, your daughter eyes are too black. You need to try putting cucumbers on her eyes. So like I get really dark circles and like maybe I kind of look like a ghost or something. I don't know, but he will tell me, it's like, you need to go lay down or drink some water or you don't seem okay. Are you okay? He would do check-ins with me, which has really helped. But it's getting over that mindset hump of like, if I don't feel 100%, I'm just going to take it. And if I don't need it, okay. But if I do need it, great. And I caught it ahead of time, hopefully it won't escalate. So it's just getting over the fear of running out and being just more proactive of, I'm going to stop this the best way I know how. And that's maybe recharging or just taking my medications with recharging and see how it goes.
Girl, I feel that so hard. I'm like rationing out my Ubrelvy like so carefully, and it's like, is it bad enough that I need it? But normally, yes, it is.
I was going to say, if you're questioning, that's when you need to take it.
Good answer. Yeah.
uh, like what helped me a lot is after I got released from the hospital, I was around 23 and I was in a really bad headspace. Uh, I became very depressed. Part of that was because I was on an antidepressant for 12 years and they took me off that. And that meant like my entire childhood, I didn't really feel emotions very much. And
Mhm.
then I get released and like I would just start crying. Like I was just one, I was having really bad PTSD from the hospitalization. I would wake up in the middle of the night drenched in sweat, thinking that I'm getting Benadryl through an IV. And like anyone that's had Benadryl through an IV knows that it's just so painful. And it feels like an elephant sitting on your chest, like acid burning through your veins. And I would just wake up like hyperventilating and I was not in an okay spot. Just wanted everything to end. So I started doing research and like, what could I do to find support? And that's when I found support groups for people with migraine. And it was life-changing. My first support group, I don't think I even said a single word and I just sat there and listened. I felt so validated and so understood and also just empowered that like, yeah, I've gone through really harder stuff than most people ever go through in a lifetime, and I'm still here. So like it gave me the perspective of a glass half full versus half empty. And that was the beginning of a mind shift change for me, which I say that's also been a big lifestyle change for me. I stopped giving control to my migraine. on my mental health. That, like, yes, I have bad days. Yes, it sucks. And my life is 100% different than what I ever expected it to be. But it's also really great. I've also met such incredible people through my disease. And I do feel that some of my best qualities comes from having migraine. So it's like that level of acceptance and that I could do this came from being surrounded by other people that have also gone through something similar. Everyone's journey is different, but everyone has gone through the same gaslighting or medical challenges with insurance or doctors. Like that is very common for everyone. So I just felt like I changed my mindset of like I could do this. Like I've gone through hard stuff. I don't know how much harder it's going to get, but I will figure out how to get through it because I always have. So it's just finding that community also changed my life because I don't know if I didn't think I would live another year. Like it was that bad of a space mentally and just also physically with my migraine. And then I did, and I have continued to do that each year. So I do think finding your community, your people that you meet with, like on a regular basis is just so important.
I have chills. Like that's again, you said it, keeping the positive mindset is really such a huge game changer and it makes such a difference. You are grieving who you were before. You completely lost. I mean, you started from a very young age. I mean, your story might be a little different. But you're grieving the life that you think that you were going to have or the life that you had. And I think the grief isn't talked about. Well, it is talked about, but it needs to be talked about more because there's so much grief with chronic illness. And luckily, there's a lot of us now that are really sharing our stories and our voices and having those conversations. What do you do to manage your grief?
I think it begins with just acknowledgement that grief isn't linear. And one day I may be going through 5 stages of grief all at once. Then the next day I may be at acceptance. It's being kind to yourself that it's okay to have a bad day. It's okay not to be okay. It's okay to rest when the rest of the world tells you you need to be productive. It's honestly just stop caring what other people think. And that's a very hard thing to do,
Hmm.
especially if you're a people pleaser or care a lot about what other people think. It is hard to turn off that part of your brain of, I'm doing what Deena needs today. And if the rest of the world doesn't agree, who cares? Like, I need to prioritize myself. And I struggle a lot with pacing because every day I'll make a list in my head of things I need to do. And I've caught myself lately, like doing the balance act. Okay, like if I go do this, I already feel that I'm not very good. I will be out for the next 2 days. So like I've started to do the pros and cons and I became better at pacing myself. But that took a long journey to get there. Like I'm now in my late 20s, like my full 20s, like I barely ever would debate that, like do this or don't do this because it's going to cause an attack. So it's just being kind to yourself and understanding that your life does look different and grief is okay. Like it's okay to grieve what you have lost or what you've hoped for. But the moment you let the grief control you, I feel like that's when your migraine just gets control over you. And at least that's like how it happened for me. It's like my grief was suffocating me. And I felt like I was going to lose my career. Like
Hmm.
I just met my husband at that time and I told him like you could leave, like you did not sign up for this. Like I think like 2 weeks after we met, he was taking me to my first Botox appointment. Like that's like how much like in he went. And it's hard to there's so many different sides of grief. There's the grief of wanting to protect your loved ones and not wanting them to see how much you're in pain. So you put
Yes.
on this smile and you pretend like the world is okay when you're just suffering in silence because you don't want anyone else to feel what you're going through. And then there's the internal battle of brushing your teeth is just getting harder and harder every day. Like that mental mindset is really hard. And that's where I think support groups just come in handy. Like I join a lot of Facebook groups and I just found those not effective. I found getting in a room of a very small group of people and just talking like what we're talking about right now and hearing how other people handle what they're going through and learning from other people. It was just so empowering, and it's still very empowering to me. I lead four support groups now, and I absolutely love it. Like, even though I'm leading them, I'm learning just as much in every support group as everyone else that's attending. And I've learned more about my disease from my support groups than I did from any doctor.
You have such a powerful voice. You create content, which, by the way, it is laid out so nice. And I've learned so much about migraine as well, even though I lived through it. And it's very educational and informative. And like I said, very powerful voice. You cover so many different areas and layers of migraine. Um, what inspired you to start sharing your journey online?
It was the moment I got in a room full of people with migraine and support group. When I started my career, someone told me, one of my mentors told me, don't ever come to me with a problem without a solution. I don't care if it's the shittiest solution, you come to me with a solution. And I view that way with chronic illness. We could all complain on how awful it is, how terrible insurance is. But if we're not doing something to change that, then we're kind of also part of the problem, right? Like, we're suffering in silence versus being loud. So I started advocacy. Like, the moment after I joined the support group, I learned about all these different nonprofits, and I drowned myself in the work because that's what I needed to survive living with migraine. I needed a purpose. I did not get a choice on what cards I was dealt, but I do get to choose how I play the game. And I choose to continue to raise awareness. So I have gone to DC the past 3 years and advocated on the Hill for policy changes. I started sharing my story publicly. And if my story just impacts one person, I view that as a win. I am not going to change the medical field. There's a lot that has to happen, but I'm one additional voice that is raising the same concerns that everyone else is. And I do think there's power in telling your story. I feel like I achieve acceptance by telling my story. And it was very hard for me to watch my brother outgrow the disease and then watch my parents have this false hope that I too would outgrow this disease. And it just kept getting worse. Like, each year, like, it was not getting better. So once I achieve acceptance, I feel like I also helped the people around me also see that, like, this is it. Like, I'm not probably ever going to be migraine free. If I achieve episodic, like, it will be a miracle. But today, that's not it. So I am going to share my story, and I'm going to raise awareness, because it's also the story of my grandmother who could not speak English to explain that her head would hurt. It's a story of my mother who, at the age of 50, became completely debilitated. And then I had to watch bits and pieces of her just deteriorate. So, like, to me, it's let's share our stories because together we're stronger and more powerful. But in order to share your story, you'll have to also be ready to tell your story, because for many people, it is not it's very emotional, and it's
Mhm.
not something you could talk about without crying or without feeling all these different levels of emotion. But advocacy and sharing my story has also been part of my treatment plan. And there was a doctor that told me you need to make advocacy part of your treatment plan because it gives you a purpose. And I feel very strongly about that, that I tell people in my support group, you need to make advocacy part of your journey. And I got an email yesterday from someone saying, like, how do I get involved with advocacy work? And, like, that's a good feeling of, like, this
Yeah.
person when they first joined was in a bad spot, and now they're ready to share their story. They're ready to go on a big forum. Maybe the big forum is just wearing a migraine t-shirt. Like, it doesn't have to be something like going to DC. It's just starting to feel accepted enough to wear sunglasses inside a building or wear a shirt that has migraine or whatever disease you have.
Yeah. You're speaking up for people that couldn't, especially when it came to like your grandmother and your mom. And I feel like that probably gives you a big sense of purpose. Obviously, a lot of other purpose when it comes to a lot of other things too. But um, along with the sunglasses thing, yeah, wearing sunglasses indoors was like really awkward and weird for me at first. And now like I have to go to like concerts and light shows and I have to put my shades on and I have to wear the caps to like the medical centers and stuff
Mhm.
like that. And it's just like finding your little things that work for you. What is the biggest thing you've learned as an advocate?
It depends who I'm talking to. If I'm talking to someone that has that no idea what migraine is to assume good intent. And there are two types of people in this world that those are the ones that don't know and don't care. And then there's the ones that don't know but do care. For the ones that don't know and don't care, don't waste your breath on them. Smile and walk away. Like you're gonna try to advocate and educate, and they're still gonna believe that Botox is just an excuse to get it covered by insurance.
Yep.
So like there's gonna be people you can't change their mind. Don't Your energy is limited, so don't waste your time on someone that's not going to want to change. The second piece is for the ones that do care, but just don't know better. Like, that's your chance to speak up. So if someone says, well, have you tried yoga? Like, you could respond saying, um, thank you for the suggestion, but yoga doesn't actually cure migraine. It may just like help me relax during a high pain, or like you could have something formatted, but like that's your chance to educate someone. So always know what that person's intent is. And if you do not know that person's intent, you make the judgment call. Is it worth your energy or be quiet? The other piece is be proud of your story. Don't compare your story to someone else's. My mom and I, genetically related, two different types of migraine, two different types of treatment, two completely different symptoms. What my mom goes through is my mom's journey, and what I go through is my journey. Just because she's in a different place does not mean that I am failing or that I am behind. I am on my own journey. So don't get caught in the loop of constantly comparing yourself to other people when you hear their stories online that, oh, Deena achieved a pain level 4 by treating her hormones. Like, that's not everyone's journey. Like, that is just unique to me on how my life played out. So be proud of your story and don't compare it to anyone else's. Your story is worth just as much as my story, but it's unique to you and mine's unique to me.
This might kind of go along with what you've learned as an advocate, but with somebody that's really struggling in their journey right now, what advice would you give them?
The most important advice is join a community. Find your people. You're going to go stir crazy on Googling and going on Reddit threads and maybe Facebook groups, and you're going to feel overwhelmed or frustrated. Join a support group or join a community. I can't explain how powerful it is to get into a room of people that you don't even need to explain how you're feeling. They just know, and they just do the head nod, like, it's okay, Deena, like, stay off camera. Um, you will learn more from your community than you will from Googling or asking your doctor because they have been in the exact same situation that you have been in. And every person that I have gone, like, I have been attendee for a support group and I've been a leader. There's no one that has joined a support group and said like it was the worst experience. Most people will say it is the best experience they've ever had, and it gave them the tools to get into the to add into their toolkit. And eventually they do find a treatment that worked, and they maybe stop showing up so frequently to support groups, but they know they could always come back. It's A support group is just so powerful to be able to be validated and also empowered to keep going. Because living with a chronic illness, it doesn't matter what chronic illness you have, it is hard. It is very difficult, especially if it's invisible. So to be able to be in a room where you could just be honest and say, today really sucked. And I don't want to be positive. Like, this is what's going on right now in my life. And I don't know what to do with my medical team. Someone in my support group told me, Deena, you need to go find a new doctor. You have a really bad doctor. Get out. Like, if no one told me that, I probably would have stayed because I was drinking the Kool-Aid. So there's just a power of like being surrounded by people that are honest and going to tell you we've been in your shoes, Deena. It's not going to work out. Like, you could continue being positive with this doctor, but there's too many red flags to stay. The second thing is just be kind to yourself. Like, allow yourself to grieve, allow yourself to feel whatever you're feeling. Just don't let yourself drown in it. And that's where support groups come in handy of being surrounded by other people that could pull you out. Because even though my mom has migraine and my dad has had a migraine attack in the past, so he knows what it feels like, it's just not the same level of like, maybe it's like the stigma of like when your parents tell you to do something versus your
Mhm.
friends, but it's completely different when you're in a room of people you don't know, but then they become your long life friends. And you may have never met them in person, but you know all about them and you know about their lives. And it's just a different, you get to escape your reality for a few minutes and get into a different reality of people that just know what you're going through.
You get validated and understood, and you can have the best support group outside of chronic illness, people that don't experience it, friends, family, but getting into a group of people that experience the same things as you, gone through the same things as you, been gaslit the same way as you, it definitely hits different, and it is very important. In the name of support groups, the Migraine Network, let's talk about it.
So I started the Migraine Network in January of this year. It's been
Okay.
an idea I've had for years, but never like had the nudge to just do it. I also completed 2 years of being a support group leader through Miles for Migraine. And Miles for Migraine was my saving grace. I found them when I was in that dark, scary place, and they pulled me out and they taught me how to advocate. They connected me with such a great community. But by leading a support group, I observed that there's still a lot of need for education and just more support groups.
Yeah.
I'm going through certification right now to become a chronic illness wellness coach, along with leading additional support groups through the Migraine Network and also through Miles for Migraine. But the Migraine Network purpose is really to offer support, validation, and truly just a community for people with migraine and even other chronic illnesses.
Keep up the good work. And you're so educated and you have so much knowledge. I mean, you have, how old are you?
29 at the end of this year, so I'm 28.
26 years of experience of this.
It's been a long journey and it's kind of wild how much of it has changed and like how other chronic illnesses also just slowly started to come into play. Like each year, it's like, oh no, like what box am I opening today?
Yeah.
What's coming into my life? Like last year's diagnosis, celiac disease, and
What's next?
it's like what's coming. It's been a good journey. It's also been a really hard journey, but at the same time, I'm a firm believer I wouldn't trade it for anything. Like I am who I am today because of the hell I had to walk through
Mhm.
from a child, literally from 3 years old, saying my tummy hurts and hearing doctors say you are just seeking attention or blaming my parents for a bad home life. To getting in my 20s and then fighting the same battle I fought when I was 3 years old all over again. Uh, but there's been a lot of life lessons, and I do feel like I've been able to create a life that I am proud of, even though it is very different than what maybe 15-year-old Deena thought her life would be.
What gives you hope and joy right now? And for the future, what gives you hope?
The biggest thing is that there's so much noise right now around migraine. And in the 90s, there was probably some noise, but not to the capacity it is today. Like social media has been able to really put it on a megaphone of we're here, we matter too. Migraine is significantly underfunded in the US based off its economic impact to the economy. So it gives me a lot of hope on how much noise there is around the disease. And the second piece is like there's a lot of new medications. 2018 was the first time a migraine preventative treatment hit the market, and there's continuing to be more treatment being released and in trials right now that I advocate for the future, Deena. I'm confident if I have children, they're going to have migraine. Like it is 3 generations in now.
Yeah.
Um, but I have more knowledge this time, and I want to create a better future for the next generation. And it doesn't just have to be my kids. It's literally anyone that's diagnosed with migraine. Like I don't want them to feel how I felt, whether that was as a child, that I was labeled as the sick kid or the weird kid in school because I would miss so many days of school.
Hmm.
Parents would tell my mom, your kids are contagious. It's like, no, like at that time we thought we had epilepsy, but like epilepsy is not contagious. Like I don't want anyone to feel the way that I felt. And even though like I had a very incredible family, I still hear like the things that I was told as a child, whether that was from classmates or doctors. I just want to create a better tomorrow. And I have hope that with all the loud noise that's happening, whether that's through social media or in DC with advocacy groups going and really pushing for change, that eventually there will be more change. But I'm excited that there's more treatments in the trial phase that maybe hopefully, one of them will be my saving grace, or at least saving grace for many other people.
It is absolutely batshit crazy to me that so many of us have experienced the same thing. Like, I had really, truly no idea that there was this many of us, which is like
Yeah.
it's not a good thing, but the community of it is nice. And I can assume that it's also doing a lot of healing within yourself, within talking about this, especially younger you're showing up for her and getting loud for her. And that's really beautiful and powerful.
Yeah, it is. I saw this quote the other day that's like the younger version of you would be prouder for all the things you've gone through. And even if you don't feel that now, she is proud of you. And I feel very like that. I felt very connected to that saying because it's like, it's true.
Hmm.
I have gone through hell. And like I went through hell before I turned like 21. And then it just continued to get worse. And it's like I have survived 100% of my hardest days and I will continue to do it. And I think it's really hard when I hear sad stories of like people that couldn't make it through because of the medical system or not finding treatment. I was told last week that one of my migraine community people committed suicide. And like that shattered my heart. Is like I remember this person in the first support group I ever attended, and I was just like, wow, that is so sad. So that is why I speak up because there's so many more people like that that have not found, maybe they do have acceptance, but they are still in such severe pain that they never got to where I'm at of being able to still be functional. They're functioning at the highest point of pain and it's just no relief ever to them. So that is why I do what I do, as I want to be a voice for all the people that lost their voice. And hopefully someone will hear the story and they will go into migraine research or chronic pain research and, be the change that the medical field needs.
If you can save one life, that's enough. Like speaking out, getting the voices out, hopefully helping other people, which you are clearly. Um, but I won't keep you any longer. Thank you for being here. Where can we find you?
Yes, so I'm on Facebook, um, Threads, and Instagram under the Migraine Network. And if you're looking for migraine support groups, you could check out the migrainenetwork.com. Currently, right now, we only offer 2 support groups, but this summer we're going to be expanding. So please join. Even if you don't think the times work, at least get on the list for you could be notified when more times come up that work better with your schedule.
And I will say for people who are listening, your content, I said it before, it is seriously laid out so nice. And I've learned so much as well. And like even like the pain scale post that you posted the other day, that really broke it down. Where like the pain scale is so different for a normal person, for a chronically ill person. And it's just little things like that that really make me feel seen, validated, and so many other people. And it's very educational. So.
So thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure talking to you. And also thank you for your advocacy work you're doing too on bringing
Thank
people
you.
into the podcast. It's
Thank you.
important to share people's story, and you're doing a great job.
Thanks, Deena. All right, we'll stay connected.
Yes.
Thank you for
Thank
being
you
here.
so much.
Have a good rest of your day.
You too.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.